We are, and of course, I've already messed it up. I didn't put in the stream key because we're recording on Zoom. Give me 1 second. Let me put it into. I'm just off my game today. Find the stream key. There we go. And sorry about that false start. Now we're recording, streaming on Monday, October 28th, 2024 at 10:24 a.m. Eastern Time with Mr. Chad Stewart to talk about, well, really anything. I just grabbed, from like I just told you from our email, the dangers of AI, which are probably pertinent. I read you guys, you can in the fight, links in the description, you can find everything, including the Britfield series and all of your websites, all of your links are in there. I read an article a couple months ago and I haven't shut up about it called Situational Awareness by Leopold Aschenbrenner. I don't know nothing about this guy. I don't know his background. For all I know, he's like a neo-Nazi or something. And I'm like, I read this great book by Goebbels, like about AI, and it's there's he doesn't go full into AI will save us because I think that's kind of a faulty I not ideology, I guess, a faulty hope. Nothing's ever gonna like really save us. I think that's just kind of like a law of the universe. Like if it sounds too good to be true, it probably is. But I think it's also would be naive to say it's not going to radically change the world. And as it's growing exponentially, we might see more change in the next 5 years than we've seen in the last 50 years. But before I keep rambling, Mr. Stewart, please introduce yourself to all the good people listening.
Yeah, great. Well, thank you for having me on your show, Chad Stewart, the author of the Britfield series. And I'm talking to you from San Diego, California, sunny San Diego, California. So I know you're up in Maine. As I said, I was in Wellesley, Massachusetts for about 16 years. So I do know the East Coast very well and enjoyed the beautiful state of Maine. So I
Yeah,
love getting up to Kennebunkport. In fact, I was just
yeah,
thinking about that,
yeah. You're
ironically.
in beautiful. Well, I graduated the University of Georgia in 2013. I got into medical school in Miami, but I had one of the schools I had interviewed at was the Keck School of Medicine in Los Angeles, and I'd never been to LA. I'd never been to California, and
Yeah.
never been to the West Coast. I remember I flew out there. And I remember getting off the plane at like 5 p.m. It was around it was about 11 years ago. And I remember I stepped off the plane and the sky was so beautiful and the temperature was so perfect. I just remember as soon as I stepped off, I went, I'm not getting in here. It's too good. And I didn't. It was my first instinct was this is perfect. It's not going to work out. And
It's funny.
yeah, it is beautiful. Um, but yeah, just to jump on into it then, dangers of AI.
Yeah, let me do kind of a
Yeah,
quick overview
yeah, go for it. Yeah, we can do
with
whatever.
the Britfield series because then that'll tie in sort of
Sure.
why that's relevant and stuff. But like I said, originally from Newport Beach, California, it was back east, Wellesley, Massachusetts, and it's funny because I remember every now and then, like I'd fly out like in January, and you're like just leaving like the bitter cold, and then you just walk, and it's like you're in San Diego, and like people are just skating with like t-shirt and shorts. It's like this surreal world that
Yeah.
exists outside your cold little capsule. But
Tundra.
yeah, so I was in New England for about 16 years, did my undergraduate British literature, European history, which gave me a really great focus into sort of British literature. I lived off and on in England for about 2 years, but eventually got into investment banking, worked for three Fortune 100 companies, and it was about 16 years ago, maybe a little bit. I'm sorry, about 10 years ago, maybe 12 years ago, that I was down at one of these boring seminars and I was really dying to do something creative. I think we all are. I think we're all born creative and we have a big focus on creativity and bringing creativity back into the classroom. And I was at this boring seminars when I got the idea for Britfield and the Lost Crown from a doodle. And I went home and literally just on one piece of paper, kind of started to outline it, kind of excitement. And I thought, starts in England, present day, which I think is really important because we're dealing with all these books out there, post-apocalyptic, futuristic, and it's just like no, like right now, it's
Right
happening right
now.
now. And starting up in Yorkshire, Northern England, at this horrible orphanage called Weatherly Orphanage, and it's about this 12-year-old orphan Tom, and he's been an orphan his whole life. He's been at Weatherly for 6 years, and this is the year he's going to escape. And what I like about that is that statement is said within 2 pages. So
Yeah.
it's a book. It's not a book about an orphanage. It's about a book about getting out of the
Yeah.
orphanage, and we've already kind of set that spark. And he's not going anywhere without his best friend Sarah, who's also 12. And eventually they escape, commandeer this hot air balloon, and start flying all over England. They're trying to get to London, the greatest city in the world. And they end up at Oxford, Windsor, London, and then finally Canterbury. And so I sat down, took me 4 years, 2,500 hours to write book one, Britfield and Lost Crown, 384 pages. And then from concept and doodle to launching, it was over 10 years of really building the team, hard work, raising capital, because we were in this for the long haul. And when I was writing book one, I was really just thinking one book. But by the time I finished, I thought, there's a series here. And so it kind of went from 3 to 5. Now it's a 7-book series. And so we officially launched August 2019. And since then, it's become one of the most awarded books in children's fiction. It's in the top 1% of all books ever published within the same time frame. And we believe that we'll actually outsell the Harry Potter series in the next 10 years. We're on that particular trajectory. And we're sort of the opposite of what Harry Potter is. While Harry Potter is sort of saturated with your black magic and witchcraft and occultism and make-believe world, Britfield and Lost Crown is taking place right now.
Reality.
And one thing we don't do is we don't bring in any of the fantasy, heightened fantasy, demigods, superheroes. Everything is as real and realistic as possible. I do great research, again, being, if you will, a historian. We do deep dives and into maps, into research, into history, everything, to make these books really, really authentic. And I find that's a harder style of writing, because if I'm writing in the world of Narnia or Hogwarts, and I write myself into a corner, I can always invent something. What was that one spell? Or, if we just have that magic cloak and it's like we
Deus
get
ex
out of trouble.
machina, just
Yeah.
and
And
then,
so,
then
so
this
many
happened.
times, yeah, so many times I write because it's so real. I'm like, how in the world are they going to get out of this to make it real? I don't like to try to suspend reality. And so yeah, so I think what's great about the books is it takes place in current time. It's based on family, friendship, loyalty, courage, and hope. We include geography, history, art, architecture, and culture. So as children are reading, as adults are reading it, this is what they're learning. We like to call it stealth education. And we include the 4 C's: creativity, critical thinking, communication, and collaboration, because you're putting these children in situations where they have to think it out, talk it out, and make decisions. And so a lot of the children are sort of picking that up. They're connecting to real characters. And since the launch of book one, we launched book two, Britfield and the Rise of the Lion. We launched that in 2021. It takes place in France now. Tom and Sarah, 13 years old. That's 474 pages. And then we launched book three, Britfield and the Return of the Prince. And it's in Italy. And Tom and Sarah are now 14 years old. And then we're getting ready to launch book four, Britfield and the Eastern Empire. That's coming in at 437 pages. And it starts in Vienna and ends in Russia. And in book four, we include 11 different countries. Tom and Sarah, again, are now 15 years old. And what we do in this, in book one, there's this kind of, right before Tom's escaping from the orphanage, he learns that his parents might still be alive. There's these horrible innkeepers, Mr. and Mrs. Grievous, and they're trying to get information from Tom. They want Tom to turn in all the other orphans that are sneaking in things and doing things that they shouldn't be doing, as orphans would do, as kids would do, right? And it's like a real horrible place. And they're like, you got 2 days to turn everybody in, and we might let you know about your parents. And so, like, can you imagine being an orphan your whole life and suddenly realizing your parents might be alive? And before he escapes, the oldest orphan, Patrick, who's 16 years old, breaks into the Grievous's office, finds Tom's file, and finds one clue, Britfield. And so gives that to him before he leaves. And so there's this whole thing of Britfield and the Lost Crown. What is it? And so as Tom and Sarah, escaping in this balloon, and they kind of crash land into Oxford and trying to find out more about Britfield, we got this royal mystery. And you find out as you're reading the book that the Britfields were the actual real royalty of the British Empire, starting in the 1200s, but were usurped by other dynasties, which is very realistic, and the Britfields kind of represented an almost godly presence, if you will, giving back to the people, not taxing them, educating them, giving them every opportunity in the world. And that's obviously counter to all the other dynasties that will suck them dry with taxes and wars and you name it. And so there's that kind of thread. And as this authenticity comes into it, if you will, we include a lot of this other stuff that's happening in the world. A little bit in book one, we introduced this group called the Committee that were behind getting rid of the Britfields. And it's really based on the Committee of 300, if you're familiar with that. And so in book two, I've always said book two is kind of my Empire Strikes Back, because it's like, whoa, we pull the curtain. Tom and Sarah now 13. The Committee realizes that Tom's alive, that he may be the heir to the British throne that they thought they got rid of. And so we bring in a lot of things like the 13 families, bloodlines, secret societies. And so it's interesting. It's not forced in there. It's just a background thread, if you will. But it's very, very interesting. And we include things like um, quantum computers, social credit scoring, why social media was created, to gather information, and then all the way up to book 4, we talk about the dangers of AI, and it's always set within a week's period of time, and so we kind of start on the action, we end on the action, and there's always something that the committee is doing to try to, if you will, crash the economy, like in book 4. And so that's kind of the series, and it's very exciting. Book 5 will take place in Asia. Book 6 will take place in South America, and then I'll bring back the series to the United States. Book 7, and Thomas are 18 years old, and we'll probably start in sort of California, end in Boston, where it all started, and that'll kind of conclude the series. And since then, it'll be 7 major motion pictures. This is a finished Britfield and Lost Crown script, and we're now
Oh,
moving
shit.
into pre-production of the first of 7 major motion pictures. And what's been fun is actually this. We started a year and a half, almost 2 years ago, actually, with the script, hiring a professional script writer. We went through 2 or 3 drafts, and then I took over last November on the 3rd draft because I just needed to get it, if you will, a little tighter. Went from 168 to 148, and then I did a final polish in January, 10 days, going through the whole thing. And now it's been fun because now I'm returning to the script. I'm giving it one last polish, tightening it up, and I'm excited. So we can talk about the movie, and we can talk about the book series. We can talk
Sure.
about any of those other things. But the film is going to. We believe that the film will be one of the highest grossing films in cinematic history. It's a story that this world wants, needs. It's a tonic. It's just a clean, good, feeling good story about hope and inspiration and all those other things. There's no agenda in it, if you will, and push towards all this other crap. So
It's also, yeah, what you said about kind of fiction and magic. Yeah, it's like the world we live in is insane enough. Like
yeah.
you don't need magic. Like it's odd enough that, I mean, we're nation states of hundreds of millions of people. We have, orbital platforms going Mach 30, 100 miles up, and nuclear weapon. Like, it is insane. There's the internet. It's this global silicon brain. Like,
Mm.
it is maddening enough that you don't really need to add in magic. But I was gonna ask you, is this the first thing you've written? Like that's some wild success. I'm just curious.
Oh yeah, no,
Some of the
absolutely.
as someone that's
Yeah,
building
and I
my own
had
thing,
no.
I'm very drawn to people that are, able to, you know, creativity is all well and good. It's when you turn creativity into dollars, to me, that is like alchemy. I've found that is harder than getting into medical school. I've found like,
There you
it
go.
is legitimately easier to become a doctor than it is to turn creativity into dollars.
It is, yeah, and I didn't come from a sort of fictional writing background. Now, since I was 18 years old, I had a fascination with film and movies, and got into theater, which was a lot of fun, mostly local, and then started taking script writing classes. And so, really, for decades, I was writing, major motion picture scripts. I was working with a lot of professionals in the industry, and I was doing this more for my own ability, if you will, with the intention of hopefully making these into films, and still will, if you will, because I've got some really good ones. But it was just I was learning the art of writing, and the thing is like script writing and writing a novel are night and day, completely different. When you're writing a script, if you have a 90-minute movie, you really have about a 90-minute script. Each page represents a minute. That doesn't deviate that much. And so what it does is it teaches you many things. Number one, the 3-act structure. And that 3-act structure has to be very specific. Your inciting incident in a movie needs to happen within the first 7 to 8 minutes, right? And if 10 minutes is going on, we subconsciously, and nothing's happened, like what's the trigger? What's the story about? We start to kind of lose attention. So it's like it's got to grab you right away. And then you have plot point 1, midpoint, plot point 2. And I learned all these things in script writing. I learned economy of words. You never have large paragraphs in a script. You're never really directing the actors in a script or adding other things because the producer or the director or the art director does that. So it's all about story. And if that line does not belong in that movie, kind of if it's a kind of whimsical comment, like, oh, he grabbed it like the sword of Thor, then that's amateur writing. You get rid of that. It's stupid. every single sentence, every word that's in the script needs to be there. You start on the action, you end on the action. And so I learned all of that. And so when I started writing Brit Fin Lost Crown, I wasn't thinking like, oh, I've got all this great writing ability. I just sat down and kind of started to outline it and started to write it. And I know that 90% of the people that have read Brit Fin Lost Crown who love it, they say it reads like a movie, and which is a great compliment. They go like, I feel like I'm there. I love all the description and this and that. And so I think that ability helped me to write it, and then analyzing and reading some of the other novels and book series out there. I'm a big Dickens fan, British literature, Lewis, all of that. And then watching some really good series. I tell people I've done writing workshops, which I don't have time to do anymore, but I say everything you want to learn about writing action adventure, watch the 24 series with Kiefer Sutherland, because it's like, wow, and I do. I watch like the new James Bond series with Daniel Craig. You pick up things. I watch the Mission Impossible series with Tom Cruise. And so I'm studying kind of the art and the craftsmanship of writing, and so I'm bringing all of that in to my novels to just make them move fast. I've had 12-year-olds that have read this 384 pages in 5 hours, 6 hours, which
Jeez.
is amazing. And it's not because it's a kid's book, because we use a lot of great vocabulary, a lot of great sentence structure. Our youngest reader's 7, our oldest reader's 93. 55% of our global audience are adults. And we get feedback almost daily from parents, from mothers, from teachers, from librarians all around the world that just love this series. They love it because it's fun and it's fast paced and it's exciting, but they love it because it's clean and it doesn't have this crap in it, if you will. And I'd say about 90% of the entire market is saturated with these types of books: the witchcraft, the vampires, the demigods, the superheroes. And they're designed for 3 reasons. 1, disconnect kids from reality. Number 2, make them feel less than they are, which I find fascinating. But if you think about it, you're reading about Superman or you're reading about Harry Potter, and it's just like, gosh, if I was just a witch, if I
Yeah.
just had magical powers, you're not learning. The kids aren't learning anything from these books per se, because you don't solve your problems by waving a wand or having a
It's
magical cloak or saying some occultic spell.
it's a learned
And number 3,
helplessness
they
almost.
introduce a lot of dark subjects and they push agendas that is just unnatural and pure crap. And so to have a clean series out there that is engaging the audience is a lot of fun.
It's a learned, not to have a shitty pun, but you are learning something. It's learned helplessness. It's
Sure,
if I was just super, it's like that statement. It's like if I was just able to fly at the speed of light and lift 100 trillion tons. It's like, yeah, that's not it's not like, when you see someone build a business like an entrepreneur, that's
yeah,
realistic. You go, if I just stick to it for a couple of years and make sacrifice, it'll work.
sure,
If I just had magic, it's like, well, right there, you've already detached from reality.
sure,
And it is a learned help. I can't do that. If I was just, but I can't do that. It's a lot different than like, yeah, no, if you just, I don't know, if you hit the gym, if you practice dribbling a basketball, if you
sure,
get to writing, I taught myself graphic design. Like if you just trial and error, like I literally started making memes and over 5 years and thousands of hours, it led to, different things.
true.
It is a learned
Yeah,
helplessness that if I just had a wand, it's like that will never happen. It's not
sure,
the same as like if I just stick to it and work hard. So yeah, no, that is a. It doesn't mean that all fiction is bad. Like I also don't want to be like
sure.
some Scrooge curmudgeon that's like never
Yeah,
imagine and have fun. It's okay to, hey, I love Transformers movies. That is as low
yeah.
brow
Oh
as
no,
you get, but I love watching an 18-wheeler beat the shit out of an alien. Like it's
yeah.
fun. There's nothing wrong with it. Like Marvel movie, yeah, who doesn't want to watch a CGI Hulk throw a tank? It's fun. I also don't want to be, some old man that's like, if you can't do it in real life, don't. No, no, no.
Yeah,
I don't want to be that. It's okay to have fun, but when it comes to, what are you digesting as a child? It's no, you
sure.
want to go out and get it. You do want something that's like you can do this too. Like you
I think
can
it's
work hard
balanced
too.
too, right? I
Yeah,
mean, I grew up with Star Wars, the original series, and
yeah,
I'll be honest. I mean, I'm still just a massive fan.
sure.
It affected me. It's funny too because I did we kicked off a national tour in 2019, and I drove 9,000 miles. I visited 23 states, presented to over 200 schools in front of more than 40 to 50,000 students, private, public, Christian, Catholic, homeschool, charter, you name it. It's amazing. Sometimes 400 kids in an auditorium, fourth through eighth grade. And it was amazing. But I was saying that too. I'd come in there as an award-winning author, but I'd only talk about Britfield for about 10 minutes. And I talk about how I had the idea, and it took me 10 years and really 10,000 hours
Hmm.
before we actually launched book one.
Has
And
to.
I said, you might have a great idea for something you want to do when you get older. It might take you 3 to 5, 10, even 20 years to realize that. And it's like I'm telling this to fourth and fifth graders, but I'm being honest and I'm being real. And I say the difference between a hobby and a profession is about 8 to 10,000 hours. And I say every overnight success takes between 1 to 2 decades. And again,
Uh-huh.
I'm telling that to middle schoolers, but I'm being honest. I'm not like, hey, you can do anything you want to put your mind to, because we live in this flashover substance society.
It's sorry to
But I
interrupt,
was a
but
huge, yeah,
I was gonna
I was
say,
a huge
you ever
publisher.
see those things where it's like an overnight success, like in like the, college basketball or the NFL? It's like, no, 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 no. You're seeing the overnight success. Sure,
Yeah,
Tom
yeah,
Brady I'm from New England. Tom Brady, sure, came out of nowhere. He wasn't born and then 24 hours later won the 2001 Super Bowl.
yeah.
You're
There you go.
seeing it. He's breaking
It's
through.
true.
But yeah, no, sorry, keep going.
No, no, and it's true. And if you look at any real successful person, because a lot of it's fake, they're like actors and there's billionaires, and it's like that's just nonsense. They're not. They're just actors. And but I won't go into that. But the point is, if you really dig down, you see their sudden success. You go back and when they're 15 years old, they're
Yes.
trying, getting a job, getting fired, and then this happened, and then this happened, and this happened. There's a great story about King Gillette, Gillette razors. It took him 17 years to finally hit success. 17 years.
Jeez.
I mean, you name it. I've read all the bios and all the greats, and it's like 1 to 2 decades, And the only difference is number one, they had a passion and a drive. Number two, they didn't give up, and I mean, so many of them were close to complete and total bankruptcy multiple times. In fact, some did hit bankruptcy and then rebuilt and finally came about. Even in like Hollywood, you look at some of the great movie stars out there, and it's like, oh my gosh, look at her. She's got an Oscar and she's getting $15 million. You go back, and at 10 years old, she was being driven to
Yeah.
commercials,
Yeah.
auditions. She was getting rejected from hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people, and finally got one commercial, and then another 6 months goes by, and then got a bit part on a show that got canceled. And then, I mean, it's just staying in the industry, doing what you love to do, working hard, believing in yourself, and eventually, you know what I mean. And that's not a guarantee either,
No,
but
no,
it is
no,
that
no, no.
long duration. Anything of quality will take time and dedication, period. You can't beat that. So
No, and for me, it's I've had those kind of again, getting in medical school or teaching myself craft. The podcast is kind of an odd case because it's all by definition, its very existence is a documentation of it. But even this is episode 1608. It's October 28th, 2024. You can go back and find it in December 2019. It's literally me at 30 years old living above my parents' garage with a laptop. I have no idea how to operate anything. It's like Skype. The first 10 minutes is literally just me like, can you hear me? I can hear you. Can you hear me? I can. It's awful. Truly lower than pond scum. But it's so much of it is you keep at it, you keep at it, you keep at it. For
yep,
every show you see, there are so many. I tell people rejections are a win because that means they responded to you. Do you know how
yeah,
many
yeah,
emails are it's like, well, for every episode you see, there's 9 rejections? No, 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 no. There's 900 ghosts. No response. Nothing. You don't even know if the email got through. And
very
and
true.
as you keep going and you get a win, and then there's again, yeah, 6 months later. And it's not 6 months of just you wait 180 days. It's no, it's 6 months of, and then you go back and there's just, 200 more episodes that didn't break 10 views. And then you get another one. And a huge thing I'm slowly kind of learning is like, it's not just sticking to it. It's not just failure after failure after failure. There's also something else, and it's just, can you outlast everyone else? Where it's
Yes.
like there's like part of the luck is like, can you just keep at it? And so there's a lot of like, you got to be talented, you got to put in the work, you got to have the there's so much luck, there's networking, there's everything. But even luck isn't luck. Luck is it's like a hallmarky quote, but it's when preparation meets opportunity.
I like that.
Luck is spinning a revolver. Yeah. Well, eventually it fired. It's like, yeah, but he kept spinning and clicking. And eventually you get
Yeah.
the, if there was no trigger, it would have, if you got that bullet, but you didn't have a trigger, you wouldn't get it. So there is no luck. But my point is so much of it is just like, I think I used the example yesterday, but like Boris Yeltsin, I think was given the whatever the Soviet Union prime minister, premier, whatever it was. He was given as, not granted, it was towards the end of the Soviet Union, it was a parlor trick. It was whoever, I think the top generals were like, whoever can last the longest at this pub. So all these
Mm.
oligarchs just got shit faced. And Boris Yeltsin was standing at the end. Now, is that is that meritocracy? Not really. But my point is like sometimes it's just can you keep going? And it's just as one by one you see other people that started shows, I know they just kind of trail off. They don't really go out with a bang. It's or they haven't put out an episode in 6 months and they just kind of fall off and it keeps going and going and going. And that's almost harder than like luck and hard work. Is just like, can you keep
It's a
going? And
marathon.
yeah, exactly. I was just about to say your feet are concrete. You just and then finally you just get to a point where it's like, oh, it's like there was no big day. It just kind of dawned on me like earlier this year, like, oh, the podcast is paying for my rent. Then I always imagined it was going to be some big fanfare, like I did it. And no, it was just kind of like a vanilla day in April that I was like, oh, I broke even.
Hey,
There's
we broke even.
there's no confetti, there's no candles. It was just me
No,
like by myself, like snoring, like waiting for iMovie to export, episode whatever, 1200. And I was like, I did it. And
that
I
is
passed
cool.
out, but like no, but everything you're talking, but those are all necessary things. So everything we're talking
Yeah,
about, it sounds horrible, and it is, but that is also that is not the exception. That is what it takes to win. Everything we're
it
doing,
is. Yeah,
everyone that's
it
ever
is.
succeeded would get, I guarantee you, anyone, Bezos to Tom Brady to Post Malone, if they listen to this, they'd be like, yeah, no, that's it. Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, Amazon was in the red for years and years,
Yes,
and they just
forever.
kept at it. But the thing when I came into this too, I love what you're saying because it's spot on. Is that I knew that this was going to be a game of duration, of endurance, and I compared it a lot to the American Revolution. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
It's just like here's a ragtag group of American patriots.
drunk farmers.
Yeah, farmers, some with even pitchforks, some without even shoes,
Yeah,
fighting the greatest organized army in the freaking world. And Washington knew he couldn't beat them head on, although he challenged them on multiple things, but it was staying in the game
yep,
and waiting for that wonderful opportunity that happened at Yorktown 8 years later.
yeah,
I mean, and it was just keeping it alive, keeping it alive, keeping it
duration.
alive till that moment, till you broke even and
Yeah,
finally started to, the same thing for us. You know what I mean?
yeah.
Like we've been in a soft launch for Britfield for about 5.5 years. And as of July, we sort of went mainstream and kind of went global. And yet, we're fighting a lot of different things that are happening right now. Worst economy and one of the worst economies, at least in history, under a horrific thing, but that will hopefully change soon. But then again, too, like when I launched in August 2019, I was on my school tour, and then by March 2020, we had a global shutdown,
Yeah,
the likes the world has never seen for
yeah,
2 years or over
yeah,
2 years.
yeah.
And I mean, like I was in Memphis, Tennessee, just did 4 schools back to back, huge success. We sold something like 20,000 books just through the tour. I mean, just huge success. It was all part of the plan. A lot of hard work. I'm driving sometimes 3, 4 hours coming into a school, driving in snowstorms, you name it. But there I was in the heart of America. I was so excited because I couldn't wait to get to sort of the rest of Tennessee and up to Indiana and Ohio and East Coast, and then all the way down to the South. And I had to turn around and drive all the way back because all the schools were closing. And so we just turned it around. We adapted it and we started to do a virtual author visit. So instead of physically being there, we were coming in through Zoom, and a lot of people did. But it wiped out a lot of great companies out there. It was sad to see it, and what doesn't break you will make you. But that was a tough time too, and it's enduring that time and it's using it to your advantage. You're finding a way to get through it. And I know so many people out there are hurting right now, and I hear you and I'm with you because it's not necessarily your fault, but you just got to push through it. Yeah.
Not your fault, but it is your responsibility. Like
Yeah.
I lived You can give me one. So this is if you can't tell, I've got water bottles everywhere. One hallmark of this podcast is halfway through. I always gotta go to the restroom. Tell everyone where to find Britfield, your Twitter, your social media. Tell everybody where to find it. I'll be back in a minute.
Sure, yeah. Well, great. I mean, it's exciting to be on your show. And yeah, so Britfield and lostcrown.com, Britfield, Britfieldlostcom, sorry, Britfield.com website. You can buy our books on that. We have the entire series there. If you buy it through the website, you'll actually get signed copies, which is pretty cool. I'm still signing books. I probably won't be signing books too much longer. We've already moved into pre-production of the first of 7 movies, and that is going to become all consuming. But I do love signing the books. I love seeing all the different orders coming in from literally all over the world. We just got an order yesterday from Australia. We've had it from New Zealand and Germany and Italy and Japan and South Africa and England, of course, Canada, and all over. So love all the orders, love all our fans. But the best way to buy this series, it's a great gift. It's fun for you. Like I said, 50% of our reading audience are adults. It's fun. It's a fun, fast-paced book. There was a great quote by a woman a few months ago. She said it's a combination of C.S. Lewis and Dan Brown. And another woman had said, she goes, reminds me a lot of James Bond, but with a larger cast and a greater purpose. And I just love that. I think that really encapsulates the book series, Britfield Lost Crown. It's got a lot of heart, a lot of integrity, and it's fun. And as you're reading it, you learn. Great gift, great Christmas gift. Gosh, I got hundreds of books that'll be shipping out over the next couple of weeks. So
I was gonna say, you know, I forget. I think it was the subtle art of not giving a fuck. But there's a quote, and it's not your fault, but it is your responsibility. And it's
that's a good point, though, because it's
yeah,
like if it's not your fault, then it's like then you're the
it's
victim, right?
yeah,
Well,
it's fine.
but
No,
it's
no,
like,
but most
but you
things
need to
in
step
life
up.
aren't your fault. Most
Yeah,
I didn't choose the temperature today in Maine,
yeah,
but I live here. It's my responsibility. Now, granted, the
yeah.
responsibility is small. Close the windows, put on sweatpants, but it's your responsibility nonetheless. And there are bigger things. Like, I mean, I started the podcast. We now know is the first day that COVID got to the U.S. and it's December 12th, 2019. I mean, if that's considering that, it probably wasn't a
Sure.
CIA lab made bioweapon, which I think it was, but the narrative is December 12th, 2019. Not my fault, wasn't your fault, but I pivoted and I was
There you go.
interviewing people that I had no business. Maybe now because I've got a bigger reach, but I was interviewing people in 2020 that I had no business interviewing because it was a pandemic and everyone was at home. I got the head of NASA JPL. Like I got on an Apollo 16 astronaut. Everybody was at home. Nobody had anything to do. And so you have to pivot and make it yours. And it's that also comes to like the it'll never be the right time kind of thing. Like I remember I moved home with my parents in 2014, right after college. I lost my older brother to suicide, and I just plummeted for 2 years, just drugs, everything.
Mm,
Moved home. I had to get sober. I had to do therapy. I was messed up. And I was trying writing. I was trying like video editing. I taught myself graphic. It was just failure after failure after failure after failure. And then starting the podcast, and it was like the key worked. I could just tell from the first episode. I was like, I think I can do this. Like I know I can work hard, but I was like, I feel like I can do this. And I just remember thinking like, it's all work. Like I'm only 29, like it's working out. And I just remember saying to myself, I literally remember just like laying down one night and I'm like, so long as like the world doesn't end, I think this is gonna work. And then COVID broke out, and it was like, you got to be
cool.
kidding me. But again, you have to pivot and just move with that. It's here. What are you gonna do with it? And it doesn't make light of everyone that's hurting and suffering. I get it, but you do have to kind of pivot with it and move forward. There will never be the perfect time to write a book. There will never be the perfect time to start a podcast. And you do just kind of have to start and move forward. I was gonna ask, one thing I never do is like when the show is live, I never look at like the number of people watching. I don't even have it up on the screen because that ruins the show. If you're looking at something, you're like only 10 people
Sure.
watch. How about when you get flustered and then it goes up and 50 people are watching and maybe people like what I'm doing and no, 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 no. That ruins the show. It ruins the flow of the conversation. I've been on shows where the host is constantly looking at live chat and it just feels
Mm.
like I'm here with you. phone is on airplane mode. It's just we're doing this. Then the more you just focus on having a conversation and not how many views is this gonna. No. Just have a good conversation. Ask this dude about his book. Ask him about success. Ask him about whatever. The show it'll take care of itself if it's a good conversation. Do you have that with your book and less of like how many units do I need to sell versus like you enjoy writing it? You're like, this is sick. I love this. This is like awesome. When that creativity starts flowing, it's like a faucet. You're just a vessel for it. You're just like, it's coming out of me. It's Have you felt that, or not even felt it? Have you quantitatively seen that where if you just focus on just putting out a good product, kind of success follows?
I do. Yeah, I do. It's and you can't chase it. And like I said, when I got into this, once I really connected with it, I knew I was in for the long game. And so we're playing the long game. It's not going to be overnight success. That doesn't exist. Um, and yeah, it's been really like 10, 12 hard years. Even this year has been brutal. And not just for me, for pretty much everybody and everyone I've talked to. I mean, been the worst year for some people as far as finances ever. A lot of it by design and
Mm-hmm.
orchestration, but it doesn't matter. I mean, the point is, it's because you're in the long haul, and I'm not looking day to day, if you will.
That
We're following stuff and monitoring stuff, but it's just like I'm focused on the big picture. I've got a vision. That's what I'm aiming for. And I think too, like I've done a lot of deep diving, much like yourself. I was really relearning history for the last 12 years when something sort of sparked my awakening, if you will. But I sort of disconnected from it over the last, I'd say, 12 to 18 months, just because so much of it is negative and it's designed to be negative. And I thought, I just want to focus on Britfield. And so that's really what I'm doing now is I'm completely and totally focused on Britfield. I've got major objectives that I'm trying to do every day. I've got my punch list and things like that. And that really drives it forward. Coming back into the script, I mean, it's hard to sit there for 6, 8 hours editing it again. I print out about 3 pages at a time because I'm into paper edit. Paper edit's very different than your sort of laptop edit. You get it as far as you can on the computer. It looks great and stuff. And then as a trick, if you will, start to print it out and read it on paper. And it's very different. You catch a lot of mistakes. Things that you read dialogue like on the computer, and it's like, oh, it's the most perfect scene I've ever written. And then I print it out and I'm like, that's crap. So it's like you
good.
catch a lot of stuff, but what I'm saying is it's a lot of hard work, but no, when I'm in it, it feels fantastic. And guess what? An hour goes by and I've just made 3 or 4 pages better.
Yeah.
And that has great reward to me. And what's nice about it too is I know that it's getting out there. It's like if I was just doing it internally, there's a lot of people out there that want to write that book, but it's hard because you're exposing yourself and you're exposing yourself to, if you will, potential criticism and feedback that you don't
Hmm.
like. But it takes a lot of guts to do that. But it's nice. I mean, I just received so much wonderful feedback globally. So we know we're hitting our target, with the audience, and our numbers are there and we're watching it. But I don't feed off the numbers and day by day. You can't, or it would destroy you.
No, it's something to
Yeah.
look back at over the year and kind of go, keep going. You look at it and that's how I look. I look at
I,
the
I
end of the month, every month. I take the
yeah.
analytics from that month and I put it in the Excel spreadsheet and I go, that's a lot of views. A little more than last month.
Yeah.
Keep going. And
No,
then
and I
drop
think
it
you're
for
right too.
four
Like if you
weeks.
if you reflect back at the end of the month,
Yeah. I do
or
it once a
like
month.
like 6 months later, or a year later. Like sometimes I'll do that because you get so caught up in the
Well,
day
you
to
can get
day.
you can get kind of
Yeah,
depressed. You go, it's not working, and then you look back, you
yeah,
go, it's actually if you graph it out, and I do, I go, it's growing
yeah.
exponentially. You go, got it. I'll see you in another month. Keep at the grindstone.
Yeah, agreed. And it's like us with, I mean, and again, I go through my periods, like because it's like I
Absolutely.
was hoping to be here, sooner,
Yeah.
or that this would be moving, and some of it is just timing. I can't control everything, of course, but if I look back and I'm like, gosh, look what we've done. I mean, I've written 4 books. We're just about to launch book 4. It's over 2,000 pages worth of authorship. I mean, that's probably 20,000 hours of writing. I mean, that's a huge
Yeah.
accomplishment. We took book 1 and translated it into a theatrical play, which we launched globally this year. There's schools out there that are putting on the play. We're just about to do a radio broadcast or launch a radio broadcast. We recorded last Saturday, not this Saturday, but the one prior, with a group of middle school students, theater students, about 17 of them, for a 90-minute theatrical play. And we're there for 6 hours recording Britfield and Lost Crown. And we're going to be launching it on 25 plus major platforms over November and December over the holidays, because Britfield is kind of designed as a, if you will, a Christmas classic, because book one takes place starting 7 days before Christmas and ends on Christmas and stuff. So, but you look back at it, things that you've done, and when you take it in its whole, and it's just like, wow, it's a lot, where we sold this many books since we launched it, or we've talked to this many people or done this many interviews. So
Go back to what you said about printing out. That's interesting.
yeah,
What do you think that's
I could
from?
tell you, yeah, I could tell you some tricks of the trade, in writing and stuff. And it is writing is really 10 to 20% writing and 80% rewriting and editing. I
Mhm.
think we'll take the novel or the book. I think it's great when someone like has an idea and they dedicate the time and they sit down and they actually finish their first draft. That's a huge accomplishment, getting all that out. But that is really the beginning. And really what makes great writers is wordcraft. It's the editing, the editing, the editing. And truthfully, every finished published page will take you between 3 to 5 hours. So if you sit there and say, I want to write, a 200-page novel or book,
Jeez.
I'd say it's going to take you realistically about 800 to 1,000 hours. It's just a fact. You can't cheat that. You can and have an inferior product, but if you're going to do anything, do it right and do it well, or don't do it at all. And so it is. It's an editing process. And what you do is it's like combing matted hair, right? I get my first draft and my hair is kind of matted. I take a break, walk away from it,
Mhm.
whatever, 2 weeks, a month, come back fresh. And then you start at the beginning and you come all the way through it. And that's when you start to clean up some sentences and tighten up some paragraphs and maybe add a little bit here, take a little bit away, tighten up the dialogue, make it seem more realistic. You go through that process maybe 2 or 3 times. And then once you're done and you have your draft of your book, maybe you're on your third draft on the laptop, as good as you can get it, that's when you start to print the page. And I'd only print one or two, maybe two or three at a time, and sit down. Something comfortable. That's what I do. I sit in a chair, got a lamp, I got my highlighter and my pen, and I just start reading it as if I was reading the book. And I don't know what it is. It's interesting because it is night and day. It's not slightly different. It's very different. And you're like, oh my gosh, I used the word jump 5 times.
With,
Or
with
it's like I said the
printing.
same thing 3 times, or I use this word, or like that sentence doesn't make any sense, or whatever it is. And you just, and I'll just highlight it and keep reading. And then I go back and I fix it. I print it again and I get it to where I can finally read through it and it's really smooth. And then I get on to page 5, page 6, page 7. It's grueling. It's a hard process. But it's no different than anything that anyone out there is doing, any other profession. You don't go out and just start playing tennis and become a world class, player. It's the hundreds, the thousands of hours of hitting a ball, hitting a ball, hitting a ball. Doing the serve, basketball, free show.
Hmm.
I love John Wooden, the famous UCLA basketball coach. I think he's the most successful basketball coach in history. And he'd get these hot shots from high school, number one in their league, and he'd sit there and say, "Great, sit there and shoot 500,
Right there.
free throws." And it's just the basics. It's the basics. It's the basics. It's the hours, the hours, the hours. It's the memorization, or the what do they call that with the we just
Muscle
get so
memory
good at doing
in the
something. Yeah.
zone. Yeah.
And writing's like that. I mean, I'm going over the script, like I thought we had a perfect polished script, and there's nothing ever perfect, if you will, but in January, and I thought, no, I better go back through it. And it's like I spent, 6 hours on Saturday just going over the first 20 pages again, cleaning it up, tweaking this, checking that, and it's just you're getting it better and better and better. It's just a long, long process. It'll never be perfect. And in many ways, people say, is a novel ever finished? And I'd say, when it's in hardcover and out there, it's done.
Yeah.
It's as good as I can get it, because it's like you never want to second guess it either, too. And but yeah.
Yeah. No, it's there's there's a quote I like, but I also kind of hate because it does kind of sound cringy. But it's art's never finished; it's just abandoned, and it's just true. You
Hmm.
reach a point where you go, it's good enough, right? Because by definition, there is no. It's not like a test that you can take 100 times until finally you get 100%. You can't get above
Yeah.
100%. There is no definitive art. You can't say now it's finished. To what end? You've used this many pixels, sure, but that's enough.
Yeah.
That's just a threshold. Um, yeah, no, I'm kind of focused on the whole printing it out because there are weird little like I have a friend who's saying the other day like he thinks he figured out what dad strength is because he's a new father and he goes it's just middle back. He was holding the baby. I can feel muscle in my middle back and he goes and I noticed it at the gym. I'm stronger. He goes so I think I found out what dad strength is, just kind of old man strength.
Interesting.
Which is, and the thing is, though, it's like, it's like a joke, like old man strength. But the fact that everyone knows it shows that it has a root somewhere. There
Sure.
absolutely is old man strength. There is, you know, there's certain things. It's like you can tell, like there is a reason why it's like, oh, it's just that time of the afternoon. It's like, well, quantitatively, you could be like, yeah, the sun's in that point. It kind of starts to turn golden. It's less like super exposed white sun, and it's more of just like, kind of golden. There, you can find a quantitative reasoning behind it. I just think it's interesting that you're talking about printing it out, and it's not. I'm not a
I,
writer. I don't know, but I would
I'd say this
imagine,
real
yeah,
quick.
yeah, yeah,
I'd say this too for anyone out there. I mean, even your resume, even a real important memo or letter that you're emailing, print it out first and read through it. I mean,
yeah,
get it as good as you can. Don't write it in the email either. Write it in a Word doc. When I'm writing stuff, I always write in my Word doc. And then once it's done, and if it's really important, I'll print it out and I'll skim through it real quick. I'll catch a couple mistakes, and then I just copy paste it, put it in my email, and I send it out. I do that for press releases. I'll get it as good as I can in a Word doc. It reads beautiful. I'll print it out, and I'm still tweaking. I'm like, oh, I said that same word twice, or I said I have two sentences and they're saying the same things but written differently. You know what I mean? Like
mm,
tighten it up, and you just catch a lot of stuff. So it's not just like with writing novels or books or scripts. It's with everything and anything that's really, really important that you're writing. You should always print it out and give it at least one or two, three read throughs.
yeah. I mean, it's like, they say if like you're dieting or something, it's like don't just take a nibble. Like, okay, I'm dieting, I can't have a cookie, but I'll take a little bite. Well, they know physiologically it induces a cascade of hormones starting releasing.
Mm,
Smelling food can actually start to get your digestive system going. Seeing it goes one step further.
mm,
Handling it goes even farther. Once you bite it, you start to release enzymes, and it is now like something like 100 times more difficult to resist a second bite. So
mm.
it's interesting that there is like a quantitative I'm trying to I don't know why I'm fixated on it, but even for the podcast though, I could say something in the podcast is when something kind of grabs in my mind, like when a gear grabs, I find that I don't need to know why, but I have to keep hitting at that, and that turns into a good conversation. So it's kind of like a meta theme right now, but I'm wondering what it just maybe you can't scroll. It's not a laptop where you can just scroll by. It's like maybe it's the on the actual paper. Maybe it's because it's not backlit. It's not a device. It's
Yeah, it
parchment.
looks different. Yeah, and I think most laptops are backlit with a blue light,
Yeah.
which makes you more hypnotic.
Uh-huh.
And they got
The
that from.
Kindle is like a weird thing where it's like they
Yeah.
try not to back, but nothing is probably the same as like I have a notepad on my phone for like my daily podcast to-do list, but I have sticky notes if
Yeah.
something pops up during the show. I don't know why. Something about having a sticky note is different than it being on the Apple notepad. I don't know
Well, you're
why.
not alone. I mean, there's something in the printed form.
Yeah.
It's interesting too because they were pushing the ebooks. We can go back 8, 10 years ago as the newest thing, and they thought it was going to be saturating the market and 30%. Ebooks are flatlined at about 8% of the entire market. That's it. They're not going anywhere.
No.
In fact, the book printing market and the book market is actually increasing at 5% every year. Children love the paperback and hardcover. They don't
Mm,
like the Kindles. They don't like the ebooks. They don't like reading stuff on their computers. They love holding it. I do
right.
too.
Yeah.
And I'm dated. You know what I mean? I grew up with it before the computer, if you will. But I'm saying that books aren't going anywhere. The printed books are not only not going anywhere, but they're increasing at even a 5 to 7% every rate, which is great. And there's just something about reading it on the paper, and it's just clear. And you're right. I mean, it's just different on the computer. I think it's great. The computer's great. I mean, I've always asked these questions. Like, if Charles Dickens had a computer, how would his novels be different? Would he have written a lot more? And I don't know. You know what I mean? Like on the first of it, you'd sit there, oh my gosh, you'd be knocking it out. You know what I mean? Because I'm as a writer, like all the time, I'm copying, pasting, tweaking,
Uh-huh.
changing. Can you imagine like having to do that like on a, when you're writing out with the ink, and ink is real expensive and paper's real expensive, and then or even the typewriter. It's like, are you kidding me? But it's
I
not the
think
same
those
because they
probably made
really
it
thought
better.
there's yeah, they thought their stories out very well. And so I don't know. I don't have the answer to it. I don't think anyone can. Would Dickens have written better? Would he have written
I don't think
more?
so.
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
he now again, writing's not my field, but I don't think so. I think
Yeah.
there's something about it's, look back like 500, 600 years. It's like, sure, there's greater accessibility. Someone like myself, like iPad is like how I taught myself graphic design. I didn't have to have 100 trillion parchments and paint. But I think
Yeah.
going back, it's like look back like 500, 600 years, like I don't know, man. Those marble statues where they create the effect of transparent cloth on like the curves of a woman. I'm
Unbelievable.
like, yeah, they didn't. Nope, they didn't. Those don't need to be improved. That's insane,
Oh, isn't
or
it?
yeah. And so it's like, there might
I
have been
agree.
something about the finite medium of like, don't mess up, don't screw up. You're walking across
Yeah.
the tightrope between the World Trade Centers. What if I fall? Don't fall.
Yeah. Don't
I don't
fall.
know. It's you might have had that. Maybe they did do so well because they're like, I can't afford like more ink. Just don't mess up. Don't rewrite. Make it perfect
Yeah,
now.
it's thought out more,
Yeah.
instead of like just sitting down and writing and stuff. And I have a sense of that it's quality over quantity. And
Yeah.
if you look at most of them, painters are a little bit different. Like I'm thinking of Rembrandt. He produced, almost like thousands of things and
Yeah.
stuff. A lot of it was to make money, but because he had to survive and stuff. And he wasn't paid anything of what they go for today. But if you look at
Yeah.
Dickens, I mean, he only wrote, I think, don't quote me, but something like 14, 15 books in his lifetime, all hugely successful, some better than others. The Christmas Carol was a classic, Great Expectations, David Copperfield, but or Jane Austen. She's known for really 4 or 5 novels, and yet she's one of the greatest writers. Emily Bronte, she wrote Wuthering Heights, one book. Charlotte Bronte, Jane Eyre. She wrote other books, but that was a classic. And it was like perfect. Like we're still celebrating it and reading it in high schools. And so, there was a sense of quality over quantity. They're not remembered for 50 books or 25 books. I think who's the writer, John Grisham, and I'm not mistaken. He just launched his 50th book or something, and it's just like I don't even know how that's
No,
physically possible, but
like I know. I think I've only read like one of his. Is
yeah.
maybe it was like the what's the one where it's like it's like a lawyer or something. There's like what's the I
Oh,
read
the
that in
firm.
like the first I read that
Yeah,
in like middle school, and I remember that. Yeah,
yeah.
no one knows 50 books. It's like, do you play Tom Clancy's? And it's like, which they get in the name has been so bastardized. It's like Ghost
It
Recon
has.
and like Rainbow Six Las Vegas. Like those are the But now it's just all of it's like I don't even recognize like Call of Duty from high school versus Call of Duty now. I'm like, I don't recognize this. It's like the guns are holographic and people have jetpacks. I'm like, what is this shit? Like, no, this isn't the OG. It's there is
Yeah.
something about, I think the only way I could maybe relate to it with the podcast is it's by no means the same as like printing it out on paper, but I'd say there's a reason like why I triple record, or maybe even more. It's streamed on Rumble that it's also recorded there. It's recorded on OBS, it's recorded on Zoom, and sometimes I'll record it, I'll just screen record it as well. And it's because you can't imagine if like this didn't save. And I was like, hey, do you think we could redo that tomorrow? It'd be like a weird thing of like, I think then I mentioned Dickens, and I'll be like, do that, and then I'll bring up the pandemic. No,
It's
it's
all
not,
fake.
yeah. And there is
Orchestrated.
something where it's like when you just push the ball at the top of the hill and just go, there it goes. It's just like, you ever seen those videos of people that like, they'll be like a bunch of dudes, you can always tell they're just shit faced and camping, and they like push a rock off like the edge of a hill. Oh, you find them on YouTube. They're like the dumbest,
Yeah.
simplest pleasures. But the rock will be spinning and spinning and spinning. Then it will hit an edge and it will go flying, and then it will hit like an oak tree halfway up and break it in half. And they're just cheering because it's like the most primitive, like you're
Yeah.
like, this happened 10 million years ago. Just cavemen like, yeah. How like why, they probably accidentally killed a woolly mammoth and then had a feast. Like, but you can't reproduce that. And I know with like the podcast, you kind of have to hit go. And whatever
Yeah.
happens, it happens in the most beautiful, natural way.
Great.
And if you tried to reproduce it, I think only one episode I ever had like a failed recording, and it was early on, and that's why I
Mm.
started doing triplicate recording, because you can't redo it. I mean, again, what would it be like? Like you bring up Dickens, and then I'll do. It's the most. It's creepy. Like you can't. It's we're trying to make a movie at that point. We're scripting it out versus just letting it fly. And I've gone on people's podcast, and everyone does their own thing. Some people it's highly produced, and some people do it highly produced with and it's great. It really is. You're like, I feel like that's probably more akin to writing. Well, they'll put 100 hours
Sure.
and those guys are good. They'll, those YouTube channels that maybe put out one episode every 2 months, but I mean, it's like a Hollywood production. You're like, this is good. This is good. Like, but I've gone on shows where it's like they send me the questions beforehand, and like I don't, it's their show, so I don't critique it.
Had
But
a
in my
few of
mind, I'm
those.
like.
Yeah.
I'm like, what are we doing, man? They're like, Tommy, you do podcasting. Why? And I'm just in my mind, I'm kind of like, I'd rather have like my teeth pulled. Like, just let
Yeah,
it.
I think there's so it's good to have a couple touch points or bullet
Sure.
points, if you will, things you want to cover. But I know what you. I just did an interview a couple weeks ago. I was Radio One, and it was like he was just literally reading it out,
You don't want to be ungrateful.
monotone.
You're like, thanks for having me
You know,
on. But in your mind,
yeah.
you're
So
like,
what authors influenced
Whitfield, the
you when
Lost
you were
Crown.
younger?
When you
Yeah,
wrote this, Charles
yeah,
Dickens. Wow, what a guy. And you're just like, jeez. Like, there's
yeah.
nothing better than when you're in a show and like the host will just start to derail, and like
Sure.
that's when my face lights up. Like when I'll have
Yeah.
on or I'll go on someone's show and they'll be like, what do you think about this, by the way? Like I was like the light turns on. I like lean forward, like, oh, let's go. And we just start screaming down like the rabbit hole. And those are the most animated, like wonderful. And that's the ones you do where after you go, man, an hour just went by. You go, oh, that
Mm.
felt like 5 minutes. We're just having a blast. Versus there are shows where you're like, has an hour gone by? No, it's been 8 minutes. You're like, dude, I don't know if I can do this.
Mm.
So yeah, it's whatever it is though, there's that felt thing that maybe can't be explained. For me, it's kind of doing it on the fly. For you, you're talking about the difference in printing it out and just looking at actual ink on paper. There are these weird things where you can get close. You can't quite measure it. You can get close to and go like, there is magic happening here. I don't know what it is. For you, it's printing it out. For me, it's doing it live. But you can get very close. It's like the speed of light. The closer you get to the speed of light, right, the exponentially more energy it takes to keep going each incremental to the difference between 99% of the speed of light and 99.9 is requires more energy than 1% to 99%. It goes up, it's asymptotic. It just goes to
Mm.
infinity. You can't touch it. Like as we get closer, it's like a
Mm.
magnet. It repels.
Yeah.
But you can get close enough where you can do like a vague outline. And yours is that, mine is this. And neither of us can really put it into words. But there are these, you can almost put like calipers on it. You can almost put it under a scale and be like, that's magic.
It's a
Yeah.
good way to look at it, even with the printed pages. Like I can't completely explain it. It's
I
just it's
know.
different, and
Yeah.
it's very different. And but it's a great thing to do in anything that you're writing that you care to do a final edit or clean it up, and because you catch stuff that you just cannot catch on the computer. And I noticed that even with book four. And I have a great professional editor that I work with. She went through it twice, and then we had a proofer that went through it, and then I printed the manuscript and mailed it to someone, a reader that did something for me on book three. She found 82 mistakes in book four, 82 mistakes on the printed paper that my professional editor twice didn't on the computer, and the quote unquote proofer didn't. I mean, to miss two or three, that's one thing. It's just like, of course, I won't be using that proofer again. But I mean, dear goodness gracious, I mean, that she missed it because she was reading it on the computer.
Hmm.
I mean, wow, that's a lot.
A
So
non-negligible amount. That's
I was
that's
horrified, frankly.
that's statistically important.
yeah, she gave me back the list, and I was like, dear freaking
Fuck.
goodness. Like we were already in typesetting, and I'm like, I had to go back and like in the typesetting and find because it looked different on a manuscript. So I had to like locate the location, had to give it to my typesetter, change this word, add the CD. It's like, yeah. But anyway, won't make that mistake again.
Yeah,
But anyway,
there is something kind of ironic about how we were talking at the beginning to like, you don't need magic. You don't need occultist shit to make something interesting. And yet we're coming full circle and we're both kind of talking about our own subjective magic where it's like, I don't know what it is. I can't, this isn't a chemical equation like chemistry where you can balance it. C2H9 plus O2 equal, and it's a balanced equation. You can't explain what the paper thing is. I can't explain to you what the live thing is. And this is the
I
Harry Potter.
like the live though. I like what you're saying about that. I mean, I do some shows and like saying like, okay, great, it'll go live. We'll post it in like 10 days. We got to edit it, and I'm like,
What?
why are you editing it? Like,
What?
I mean, unless I'm making major mistakes, you know what I mean? But it's just like you don't. And sometimes they have to edit it because they're trying to get it to like 45 minutes for whatever reason. But I mean, I don't edit it. I mean, I'd say about 90% of the interviews I do, they're not edited. They don't need
Yeah.
to be. Just back and forth. We're talking, and that's it.
Just let it
So
fly. I mean, truly, it's a firework. Just light it and see where it goes. It might blow up in your face, but it might be
I
spectacular. Yeah, we'll release it in 9 days. You're like, why? What?
know.
Like, you don't have an intro video, Tommy. And I'm like, I don't. Shut up. You don't have things going across the. It's when you see like a ton of people with unsuccessful channels, and they're like, well, you don't do it the way everyone else does. I'm like, yeah, but mine also like gets more views than all of yours combined. Why would I do what you're doing? Why would I copy the loser? It's yeah. Um, but we are actually coming up on an hour, so I think
Sure.
wrap this thing up, man. That was fun. I appreciate you coming on. It's that's the you that is the magic. We just kind of roll the ball down the hill and be like, I wonder where this is gonna go. That is where it comes from. So, guys, you can go in the description. You can find the links to all of your stuff, dude. I'd love to have you on again sometime. That was fun.
Sure.
That was
Yeah, we can
absolutely
dig into
great.
any
Yeah,
topic that you
I'd love
want.
to.
It'd be
That was
fun.
great. Yeah,
And thank you. It's fun to talk about, not just about Britfield, but the writing process. And it's
yeah,
like, and I'll say this in closing. I mean, everyone's different. I'm a morning person, so I like writing at 7 a.m.
sure.
But it is a duration. And people say, how do you write? You write. You know what I mean? It's the dedication, it's the commitment, it's the putting in the time. And I have great admiration for anyone that had an idea that turned that idea into a book, novel, or story and finished it. I mean,
Yeah.
it's not about being New York Times #1 bestseller. It's about doing something extraordinary that you've never done, putting your creative thoughts on paper and finishing it. And that's great.
It's like that Maya Angelou. There's two Maya Angelou quotes that I like. The first is writing is you have to court the muse. So you can show up every day writing, and it might just be awful. I think she goes, you'll sit there for 5 hours, and all you'll make is the fat cat sat on a mat. And she goes, it's just demoralizing. And then at one day, as if the muse sees your commitment, it'll go, okay, okay. And then it just zaps a
Oh,
novel into your mind.
yeah.
And another one I saw, it was when I was deciding whether or not I felt like I should go to medical school. I was dedicating every hour of every moment trying to get in. I really didn't experience college. All I did was study, and I don't regret it because it made me who I am now. But as it was creeping in my mind that I maybe didn't want to do this, and this was fall 2013, I saw Maya Angelou. It was after I went out to the bars one night. I was just drunk as a skunk, but it was there is no greater agony than bearing an untold story.
I
And I
like
look
that.
at it now and I go, it's been a truly hellish journey to get to this point, but I don't have any regret. I'll never go, what would it be like if I had just started a podcast? I mean, what would that have worked? And the voice comes, no, 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 shut up, shut up, shut up. Just go to med school. Versus I do this now and it is exponentially more fun. It is exponentially more interesting. It is, yeah, there is no greater agony than bearing an untold story. That's what I would
It's
tell.
healthy too that you don't live in regret, because there's nothing you
Oh,
could have
God.
done per se. And it's a great Tennyson quote that says, "I'm a part of all that I have met." And I love that, meaning who I am is a part of everything I've gone through, everyone that I've
Yes.
met, and it's made me who I am. And
Don't
yeah,
don't scold the path that gets you to the summit. That's another one.
mm.
It's like, yeah, man, all of
That's
it. That
good.
doesn't mean it's not painful. It doesn't mean, don't learn, but yeah, it's just yeah. So but with that, dude. That was really fun. I'd love to have you on. I'll email you this link and would love to do it again soon.
Perfect.
All
Sounds
right,
good.
brother.
Well, thank you, and have
Yes,
a
sir.
great holiday. Have a great rest of your October. Godspeed, and we'll reconnect.
You as well, brother. Thank you so much,
Okay.
guys. Thank you so much for watching.